for all things nerd. Recorded live from a studio high in the San Diego hills. All the top news in gaming, movies, and more. And now, your host.
What up? How are you guys doing? Happy Wednesday. We got what? 2 days left in July? 2 days left in July. The time flies, literally flies by. I'm watching it now fly by. Beautiful San Diego sunset, as usual, if you've never heard. I have a great view. But that doesn't matter. But what matters, right, is that we're all having fun this summer. Are we not? Are we not? I am. I mean, I get to play Halo again in the middle of summer. How is that? 25 years we've been doing this. We're going to talk about how the Halo campaign evolved, if that wasn't obvious from that little conversation. But we're neither here nor there right now. Comic-Con was this weekend. A lot of things to talk about. Obviously, Marvel brought the heat. Huh? See what I did there? If you don't know, I'd be surprised. That was lame. That was a lame joke. PlayStation Network went down, which obviously not good for a company trying to go all digital. Was it a DDoS attack? I don't know. Microsoft also went down, but Microsoft was a little bit more open and forthcoming about the situation. So, we'll see. There was a new Rick and Morty spinoff that premiered this weekend. President Curtis. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about a few different things today. And also, the Paramount Warner Brothers merger is on hold for at least a year now. As they give in to the lawsuit or want the lawsuit to run its course. So we'll see. It's interesting who's coming out for the merger and who's not, especially in recent one. But given his business ties to Paramount, I'm not surprised. So we're going to talk about all of that this week. And yeah, why don't we not waste any more time? But before we get to the news, why don't you head over to NixNerdNews.com? That is the one-stop shop for all things Nick's Nerd News. You can listen to the show right in your browser, or you can take us on the go, because I got links, all the links to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Right? Also, check out the social media tab. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We got a Facebook. And guess what? YouTube's also a social media site. What? Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get straight to the news, shall we? All right, what's going on in gaming news right now, right? Well, surprisingly, Amazon is adding its Luna game streaming service to Prime Video at no extra cost. I didn't even know Luna was still a thing. I thought they shut it down. However, it's only in the US and UK at the moment, and you have to use the service on a Fire TV. So it's very limited, extremely limited. Actually, I don't know. There's probably a lot of people with Fire TVs nowadays because I think they started implementing that more often. But Amazon is just trying to bring more service. Jeff Gaddis, GM of gaming at Amazon, which they're killing their gaming division at the same time, said, quote, "Bringing Luna inside Prime Video allows Prime members to discover games more naturally, and if they see one they like, they click it, and they're in. That's less time searching, more time playing, great games included with their Prime membership," unquote. So, yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, if you're a Prime member, you have a Fire TV, you can boot up Luna now, free of charge. Well, you know what I mean. Miyamoto is defending Nintendo's remake output lately, namely given Star Fox, upcoming Ocarina of Time, things like that, saying that without them, they wouldn't be able to, improve on things or innovate. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing him. I'll get his exact quotes here. Speaking with Famitsu, Nintendo Everything was able to translate, and he pushed back against this idea that there's too many Nintendo remakes, which there kind of are. He said, quote, "Some people might say there are a lot of remakes, but after 5 years, a lot of people have outgrown games and stopped playing them. Young people today don't have the opportunity to play games from 10 years ago, so remaking them to be more playable and releasing them again is a good way to meet the demand. Letting people know the original games also leads to future developments, so we've been actively pursuing that recently," unquote. Okay, this is one time I'm going to push back against Miyamoto. You can play games from 10 years ago. That is very doable, especially on modern consoles for the most part. Maybe not Nintendo because of how they gatekeep everything, but I can get a game from 10 years ago and pop it into my Xbox and play it because backwards compatibility. I can do the same on PS5 because of backwards compatibility. Now, on PlayStation, it's a little harder to go back farther in time, and whereas Xbox, it's not. Nintendo makes it almost impossible to go back in time. You cannot play games from the Wii or the GameCube or anything like that, let alone NES or anything, on a Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. I think he says that because that's Nintendo's thing. They gatekeep, they lock it out. Yes, they innovate on new consoles. Well, Switch 2 and the Wii U weren't exactly innovative over their predecessors, but Nintendo has made it extremely hard to go back and forth with older games. They're one of the few companies that do that, and it's frustrating. Yet they don't stop because people continue to buy the re-releases and everything from them. So it's interesting. And don't call me a hypocrite because I'm going to go and praise, the Halo remake, but there's a lot of differences. I can still pop in my original Halo from original Xbox into my Series X right now and play it. Okay? There's like 4 different ways I can play the original Halo on my Xbox Series X right now without issue. Right? Plus, then now there's the campaign evolved. If I want to play Ocarina of Time on my Switch or Switch 2, I don't even know if they did it through Virtual Console. I'd have to go find a copy from somewhere, hope that it's inexpensive. I'd have to then find an N64, a working one, that is inexpensive, or borrow these 2 things, and then plug it in, and then find an adapter cable to be able to hook up an N64 to my TV, right? Or get one of these modern retro consoles from Analog or Retro, another one I saw recently, I can't think of the name, had retro in the name. And then boot up these games, right? Look at the barrier to entry that Nintendo puts up that I don't have on necessarily PlayStation or Xbox. You can't necessarily go play any previous Halo game on PlayStation, but the idea is there. Even on PC, right? I can go in and there's very, very many ways for me to play the original Halo on a PC. So Nintendo is a little disingenuous. Miyamoto's a little disingenuous when he say you can't play 10 games from 10 years ago. You can't because it's Nintendo, but only Nintendo, right? So I think it's a little... It's just them trying to make money on a game they've sold you 400 times already. Anyway, speaking of PC, who's into handheld PCs? Is that still a thing going? Or has that just the market shifted to non Steam Decks, because according to analysts, the Steam Deck, demand has fallen off a cliff. Via Gizmodo and Boiling Steam, 82% fewer units of Steam Decks were sold this year than last year. And that could be because everyone has one already. And mind you, there was a price increase. But the Steam Deck slipped to from fifth place on Steam Top Sellers chart down to the number 14 spot. This is on Steam's own rankings, which could lead to a 72% drop in revenue. Now, these aren't official reportings or anything. This is just, blog math. But it will be interesting to see if demand really has fallen off a cliff like that, because it is now $789 for a Steam Deck, which actually makes it a worse deal compared to the ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go, things like that. There are some things that the Steam Deck has that the others don't, but is it worth nearly $800? That's another question entirely. Xbox is testing a new feature for an ad-supported tier of Xbox game streaming. For those of you who want to stream your games, it would allow you to select certain games from your library to stream, but with supported advertisements. It's only available to Xbox Insiders right now. You can stream those select supported games with a subscription for free with ads, where 1 hour session limits across supported devices and regions where it's available. So an ad will play before any streaming session begins and will not interrupt your gameplay. Microsoft is insisting this. However, what happens? So is it only before the game? Is it in between? So, again, it's optional. You can choose other ways to play. This is a free option for game streaming. But Microsoft said, quote, "For many players, the device they already own now allows them to stream games with Xbox. Cloud can also help Xbox One owners play newer games built for Series X without needing to purchase new hardware right away. That can be especially meaningful in places where consoles are harder to find or less affordable, giving more players another way to access great games on devices they already have." Advertising has existed in gaming for decades, from in-game placements to free-to-play models, but it hasn't always been built with the player in mind. When done well, advertising can help lower the cost of access. It creates another way for players to get into games without an upfront streaming purchase, and expands audiences through new ways to play. For brands, this only works if showing up here adds to the experience, not takes away from it, unquote. So there you go. We'll see what happens. Microsoft said this is how it works. First, you start with the player. Ads should create value. We do not interrupt the flow of gameplay. We hold ads to the same quality bar as our content. We're clear about what's advertising. We make sure ads fit what players expect on each platform. That was what they outlined on Xbox Wire for what constitutes the ads that will show before streaming. We'll see how that plays out. Well, here's a first. I'm not agreeing with Yves Guillemot right now, because for some reason he is supporting Sony's move to go all digital. No surprise, given Ubisoft's push for Uplay and things like that lately. I very rarely go against Yves because, A, I want Ubisoft to succeed, and I know that sounds like a hot take in today's market, but I have very much enjoyed Ubisoft's games over the years. And they don't pay me, they don't give me free shit. Like, I just have enjoyed, A, I love Assassin's Creed. B, some of their open world games are some of the best. Okay? Just don't shoot me. I just enjoy their games. But during a investor Q&A, Yves was asked about, what he thought about this idea of Sony killing discs. Said, quote, "What we saw on the PC is that it helped to grow the market. There's also some pressure for the future on the cost of machines and being able to be only digital will help to have a more accessible machine, I would say. There are plus and minus, but we think it will not disturb too much the industry, unquote. And that's obviously him speaking in English, as his first language is French. But I disagree with him here, because disk drives, realistically, are one of the cheapest things in a console. So, yeah, you can argue it's $100, but when you have to buy it separately. But at the same time, they're buying them at scale, right? They are adding them on to what's arguably now the most expensive, being RAM, the motherboard, CPU, GPU, things like that. Of the major components, it's on the cheaper end. So realistically, if you're going to knock a disk drive off, you're really only knocking anywhere between $50 to $100 off of the console. I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, that's really going to make a huge dent if you're trying to make the console more affordable. So I disagree with Eves there. Yes, game purchases might be digital. I'm going to get to my point in a little bit. I don't think people understand the ramifications this has. And just a short little thing before we get to that, just to break some of this up. The next new Tomb Raider game, Tomb Raider Catalyst, has been delayed to 2028. No surprise there, as the Tomb Raider Atlantis remake was pushed to next year. This was confirmed by Jeffrey Gaddis, who's the new head of Amazon Gaming. Like I said, Legacy of Atlantis is due out in February. So in 2028 with the next one, he said. No other launch window was given. Wow, that first couple weeks of February are going to be stacked. I'm going to get to that in a minute too. So let's talk about the ramifications of going all digital. And we experienced that last week. And again, this happens a lot with PSN, with all of them lately. But it happening to PlayStation drives the point home a little bit harder. PlayStation Network went down on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, on Friday. For almost the entire day. Every part of PSN was down. It finally went back up later in the day, but it was down for most of the morning. This led people to be unable to play pretty much all digital games, and their movies, everything. This is a big point of contention. What happens when your internet goes out, or PSN goes down, or X happens, or B happens, and you don't have a physical version of that disc? Well, guess what? You don't get to play. And this is just another level of what happens when you go all digital. You don't own the game. You can't play it if their servers go down. You can't do X with it. You can't do B with it. You can't do anything with it, because you are unable to access the digital game file. This is why the push for all digital will hurt everyone in the end. We've talked about it for weeks now, the problems with going all digital. From them taking away movies that you bought and paid for, to you not officially owning them, to you losing consumer choice by being locked to the PlayStation Store, right? When that happens. And now, if PSN goes down, you don't have access to all of it. Everything is hitting in real time for people to see what's going to happen when you don't have a physical disc. Right? This is why we cannot let it happen. Will Sony change their mind? Probably still not. And it's unfortunate, because even in Japan, there's a big physical market still. Not just here in the US, not just in Europe. PlayStation's biggest market, Japan, still has a massive physical media presence. And I can see Europe being more digital than anything because of just how more progressive they are on things. The U.S. is more out of laziness and a lack of space. Have you ever seen new construction? There's like no space for anything. And when you look at stuff in the 90s, everybody had shelves and media centers. What I mean, though, and I don't want to say going all digital is necessarily a bad thing when I say it's more progressive, right? Some things are good for people. Some things are not. Just not everything needs to live in a server farm, because shit like this happens and then we're screwed. And yeah, Xbox went down too, and we're going to talk about that. But they have a different solution. And we'll get to it. But do not go all digital. I will ring the physical media bell for time immemorium if I have to. We got more news about God of War at Comic-Con for both God of War Le Fay and the next mainline Kratos game. Why this wasn't announced at Summer Games Fest is beyond me. It was literally only a few weeks ago, unless they were just nailing down final dates. God of War Le Fay will launch on February 16th, 2027. So that game is coming sooner than I think everyone expected it to. Will it get delayed? I hope not. It looked pretty polished when they showed off that half hour at Summer Games Fest. But it, literally, we're going to get that, and then a week later is going to be Fable. That actually might be the next time I turn on my PlayStation as well, which is kind of funny. I should be logged into that. I should make sure I don't get cleansed of my account. But we've also heard at Comic-Con that a new God of War game starring Kratos will come after Le Fay. And Cory Balrog, head of creative at Santa Monica Studio, said that they will tie in together. Nothing else was offered at the panel that they had at Comic-Con, but he said, he said, quote, "Everything we were doing in the Fae game is a continuation of what came before and to set up and expand what comes next. Frank has been around since the beginning. It's interesting to see how to build this world out. Everything in the game is setting up for something so amazing," unquote. So we're still going to get more. He also said, quote, "Fae is, while it's a different thing, it's still part of the larger tapestry of what we truly want to explore, all of these different characters in there. But there's always going to be Kratos games, throughout the whole history. We're super excited about that," unquote. So there you go. Kratos is not going anywhere anytime soon. Okay? We're just going to play a Fae offshoot in the middle. Dan Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar Games, is out here supporting physical media. Granted, he no longer works at Rockstar Games, but he did say this, quote, "I don't know that I care, but if people want that, I think companies should provide it. But I don't know that I personally care. I also think that as critical as people are of digital releases, the ability to update and fix problems in games has been really useful for the quality of games," unquote. And this was a conversation at Comic-Con as well with IGN. So that's a point. I understand. He's looking at it from a very old perspective. Back in the day, you plugged a game in and it worked. It never got updates. It never got anything, bugs and all. That I understand. But I still want a physical version of the game. Yeah, it can receive updates, but I don't want to have to, worry that if I put my disc in, it's not going to work because the internet's not on or something. Which leads into my next story. So Xbox actually went down on Monday. And they were very upfront and open about it, which compared to PlayStation, you don't always hear from them about it. Microsoft acknowledged the issue that said, quote, "Just checking in on the game library sign-in and game launch issue. We know this has been going on a while and appreciate your patience while our team keeps working on it, unquote. And that's in regard to physical games not working. That actually should not happen. Xbox has made it a point that your physical games should still work even if the servers are down. Especially, with Campaign Evolved coming out the day after this happened. But we still don't know if Microsoft is going to add a disk drive or not. But like I said, hold on, Xbox got very candid about what happened. Their chief technology officer, Scott Van Vliet, I don't know, opened up about it late Sunday night because it started on Sunday. On Twitter, he said the issue was, quote, failure of a licensing service that sits outside of Xbox, but which Xbox depends on. An internal service at Microsoft that is shared across multiple products, not some random system. This caused some sign-in scenarios to fail, and it caused many scenarios that require an entitlement check to also fail, such as listing out your full library and launching games that you own. It also affected several of our publishing and store partners who depend on those same systems, which is why some of you saw issues in specific games and not others. It's an unacceptable situation that we must do better to support you, unquote. Which, great to hear, especially from someone that high up. He then followed on Twitter saying, quote, our on-call teams caught the first signals overnight through automated monitoring and declared a major incident. Once we isolated the failing infrastructure, we shifted traffic onto the healthy parts of the system, while the team continued to work towards a root cause. Service came back unevenly across regions, which is why some of you recovered hours before others. We're running a full post-incident review. I care less about the one-line root cause and more about the real questions. Why a failure in one service was able to take down this much? Why recovery took as long as it did? And what we changed so a single point of failure can't ruin your night again. That means hardening and the dependencies underneath sign-in and game launch, improving how we detect and contain this class of failure, and being faster and clearer with you when something breaks, unquote. He finished again with, quote-unquote, will do better, which is more than anyone can ask for when a big company like that has outages. And they, like I said, are investigating the issue and then also looking at reports about why physical games weren't accessible. So this was the day after. Speaking with The Verge, Scott Van Vliet promised players that they're, like I said, looking into it, saying, quote, we're looking into reports that some players were unable to access games using discs as expected during the service interruption. Disc-based entitlement checks should not prevent players from accessing their games, and this is by design, unquote. So there you go. They are working on that. This is why physical media is most important. Yes, they do checks and everything, but usually you just need to have connected to the internet once in the last 30 days for those checks to go through and bypass. You shouldn't have to have a connection unless it's one of those rare games that still requires a 24-hour connection, which is ridiculous in my opinion still, even in 2026. Just like we really need to push for physical game being king, and I like Microsoft standing behind theirs. And speaking of companies that maybe should, stick with physical, considering their home country apparently has regulations around download codes, as we've now learned that according to official Japanese regulations, the physical, quote-unquote, version of Grand Theft Auto 6, which is just a download code, has an expiration date. If you do not install the game and utilize the code, it will expire after 170 days due to the Payment Services Act of Japan. That is correct. If you do not install the game within 170 days, you will lose access to that game, that physical game that you bought. That is an insane thing Ridiculous. It's ridiculous is what it is. Sony, bad decisions. Bad decisions. Let's talk about some positive things, though, huh? How about this? Resident Evil 5 is no longer the best-selling Resident Evil game. 15 years later, the Resident Evil 2 remake has topped the charts of the Resident Evil franchise, selling 19.75 million copies, pushing it past Resident Evil 5's 19.01 million copies. How you sell a fraction of a copy of a video game is beyond me. I'm kidding. That's 19,100,000. No. 19,001,000 copies. I'm not stupid. Want to see if I got you. But look at Capcom doing well. Good on them. Also, Pragmata sold well, so maybe we'll get another Pragmata. That should be nice to see. Moving on. What is going on? Double Fine. Fresh off their announced split from Xbox, they unfortunately laid off 25% of their staff as they go independent. And people are not happy, obviously. Xbox did make a comment on it, though. So, yeah, these were announced yesterday. Double Fine said, quote, as a small, tightly knit team, these actions are not taken lightly. Only the survival of our studio would ever make us consider such a painful action. Our transition to becoming an independent company also means becoming a size that we can sustain. The people we are losing were all important. They all made an impact on our games and culture, and they will be missed. We are committed to supporting each affected person as best we can, and we thank them for their hard work and commitment to the creative spirit we cherish here at Double Fine, unquote. Xbox released a statement about it saying, quote, as they begin their next chapter as an independent studio, we look forward to seeing what they create next. Double Fine is now fully independent and manages its own operations, unquote, because people were kind of getting mad at them for it. And again, I get it. So it's frustrating. Jason Schreier at Bloomberg said that Double Fine is a team of about 90 people, give or take. So 25% is a huge chunk of that team. But they did it so they could remain independent and stay solvent and in operation. Which, this is shitty, man. I'm not... this is really shitty, and it looks like I want Double Fine to still exist, but not at the expense of people losing their jobs like that. It's unfortunate, really, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's talk about some other things. Don't expect a remaster of the Dragon Age games anytime soon. Like BioWare did for Mass Effect, because apparently it's not even possible. Former producer of the series, Mark Dara, spoke with FRVR and was asked about chances of a remastered collection or anything like that, like they did with Mass Effect. And while he had wanted to do one, but apparently, as of right now, no one at BioWare understands the game engines those games were built on. There's no one working there that would be able to do it. Dara said, quote, there's basically no one at BioWare anymore that understands the Aurora engine. There's basically no one outside of BioWare anymore that understands the Aurora engine. So unlike Mass Effect, which is Unreal, there are basically no companies that could help you, unquote. It just lives on forever in its unremastered state. Jesus. Microsoft had their earnings today for quarter 4. Xbox did not have a great fiscal earnings report. This was part of their 10K SEC filing, and Xbox had a drop in revenue yet again. Xbox revenue decreased by $1.7 billion, or 7%, driven by declines in Xbox content, services, and hardware. Revenue for their content and services decreased 5%, while hardware revenue decreased 29%, for many different reasons. Amy Hood, the CFO of Microsoft, said on a shareholder meeting earlier today, said, quote, Xbox content and services revenue decreased 10% against a prior year comparable that benefited from strong first-party performance, unquote. I wonder if that's also because you lost a fuck ton of subscribers on Game Pass when you decided to jack up the price, Amy. Hood also said, though, that operating expenses increased 8% and 7% in constant currency, driven up by R&D investments, impairment charges, and income decreased 14 and 15% in constant currency. Operating margins decreased year over year to 21%. So these are not good things. Hood went on to explain, saying, quote, in Xbox content and services, we expect revenue to decline in the mid-single digits. Hardware revenue should decline year over year, unquote. Of course, social media found out and a firestorm erupted, with Asha, though, coming out later in a tweet saying, quote, in fiscal year 26, over 200 million new players came to Xbox and our games, but our business did not grow with our audience. We need to close that gap by investing in what players value. That will take time, but we expect to return to growth by the end of fiscal year 27, unquote. So, there you go. Satya, CEO of Microsoft, then said, quote, when it comes to Xbox, we're making the necessary decisions required across our content portfolio, platform, and operations to reset the business for long-term growth. We have the best IP in the industry and talented studios around the world, and believe we can bring those strengths together and return the business to growth in fiscal 2027, unquote. So, positive news, maybe? Meanwhile, things are great at EA, and you're not going to like this number, I tell you. The new head of EA recently got a $8 million raise because Battlefield 6 sold so well. It was the highest selling game of 2025, beating out Black Ops 7 and NBA 2K26. Sold over 7 million copies in just 3 days, and the best-selling title across both Xbox and PC. Then in March, after having such a success, EA then laid off an unannounced number of employees across its Battlefield teams and everything like that. And now, this month, part of a new SEC filing, Andrew Wilson, head of CEO of EA, had a compensation for the 2026 fiscal year, which now equals $38 million, $649,984. It's an $8 million raise, according to PC Gamer, from his total compensation from the year before. And it's all because of how well Battlefield did. Look at that. He gets $8 million and they lay off a bunch of people. Great fucking news, isn't it? Gotta love that. That's just really fucking stupid. Don't even get me started on that. I want to talk about Halo. I want to talk about Halo Campaign Evolved. And funny, I did not start with the main campaign because I've played the Halo campaign about 100 times at this point in my life. And yes, I'm going to play it. But I wanted to start with the new Johnson missions, Operation Meteorite, the new 3 new missions they added to the game that take place a year before Halo Combat Evolved. And I'm having a lot of fun. I also hate myself because, I play on Legendary on the first playthrough every time. And they are using the Reach engine. And now I'm remembering one of the reasons I don't like Reach that much. Because the elites and the brutes are bullet sponges to a point. They're not as bad as they were in Reach, but it's still not great, especially considering they nerfed the Magnum just a tiny bit. Yes, they did. There's some other issues with the game that I have. Luckily, Halo Studios has said they are coming out with a patch, because as of right now, on Legendary, when you get hit with a plasma pistol shot, you die instantly, even with full shields. Yeah, that's fucking game breaking right there. I spent about 3 hours with the game yesterday, and I haven't beat one level because I've been dying so much on Legendary. And that's not a knock against my skill. That's just a knock against the ridiculousness of some of the enemy types on Legendary on Halo. And maybe it is my skill. Maybe I have lost a step. You know, I've played every Halo on Legendary. I've beaten every Halo Legendary solo. So that's happening. No, the game is gorgeous, though. It actually ties into Halo 4 and 5 as well, these new missions. So that's great. I've seen everything online. I've seen the cutscenes, and like, Nick, isn't that a spoiler? Like, no, motherfucker. I've been playing this game for 25 years. It's not a spoiler. It's just a different version of it. Some of the cutscenes are weird. The pacing is off, and I'm not the only person saying that. Now, what I want to talk about, because I'm loving the game, and it's Halo, and I'm going to love it regardless. It's pretty. They haven't made any changes that are making me angry. What I'm going to talk about, though, is the ridiculous things I'm seeing on social media. And this goes to my overall feelings about rage bait in general. You know, you guys know I try to stay away from rage bait content. If I say something that makes you mad or you think is a nuclear take, that's fine, because I'm not trying to get you to be angry. I'm just sharing my personal opinion, and you can disagree, and that is fine. That is totally okay. What I don't like is people posting and saying shit about characters or new reskins of characters in the game or adding things and then just being mad to be mad. Like there's people are getting mad about a new ODST character and calling her girl boss and shit. Like, no. Might be poorly written, and that's a separate thing to be upset about. What we shouldn't be mad about is that a woman is in a video game. And ODSTs have a history of, like, beefing with Spartans. Tell me you don't know anything about Halo without telling me you don't know anything about Halo and seeing these posts. I saw another one because they put a black woman in the game. Oh my God. Being mad and then blaming Halo Studios and saying it's because only women work there and shit. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And yes, it's dudes being mad on the internet, being snowflakes, and you can disagree with me all you want. But if you're mad that a woman or a person of color is in your game, or that a woman made your game, you have serious issues to, like, think about. I am not that fragile that I'm mad. And this goes back to the conversation we had about God of War Le Fay last month. And people being mad about that. Like, I don't even consider myself liberal or woke or whatever. I don't get mad about these things in my game because guess what? It's a video game. We can talk until the cows come home about the quality of the writing. Okay? And this goes back to even conversations we had 2 years ago about Star Wars Acolyte. We can talk about the quality of writing on these things, but I'm not going to get mad because a person on screen doesn't look like me. And that's a ridiculous thing to be mad about. And we all know who's complaining the most. White men. What? But Nick, aren't you a white man? Oh yeah, I am. Guess what? I don't care about these things. All I care about is if the game is good. This is not supposed to be a political rant. This is not supposed to be anything other than people are being mad online about the stupidest fucking shit. And it's not even the first time we're going to talk about this today, because the things I am seeing on social media are insane. Social media has rotted people's brains. All it does is get you angry and raged and enraged, I should say, and just clicking and looking, and it just fills you with all this hate. And you could say everything I just said is rage bait, but it's not. I'm calling people out for it. Be mad at me all you want, but if you're mad about this shit in the game, you really have other things to think about at what could possibly be going wrong around you. Like, I do not understand the amount of vitriol being spewed online by bots or real people about a woman in a video game. At the same time, I'm not really shocked anymore. I really don't get it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to laugh at these people, and I'm going to go play Halo Campaign Evolved, and I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of it. Because I love Halo, and I don't really give a shit who made it. As long as it's fun. Yeah, some of the lines might be bad, but guess what? That's 3 missions out of the total 13. And I'm going to go solo the library on Legendary, and it's going to take me a week, and I'm still going to have fun. All right, well, rant over for now. Do you guys know that they're making a Stewie spinoff from Family Guy? Yeah, they are. And they've announced a cast. So Seth MacFarlane pulling double duty. Mike Henry will join the cast. He's also on Family Guy, who plays Cleveland Brown. He'll be voicing BJ, who's the son of Bruce, who he also voices. Kenan Thompson is joining as a classmate of Stewie as well. Interesting. Melissa O'Neill is joining, Aaron Lee, and no mention of Brian, though, which is interesting. I guess it's just Stewie in class. I think it's just being called Stewie. They haven't given it a name yet, at least not that I'm aware of. The synopsis says, quote, after getting the boot from his old preschool, Stewie is forced to enroll in a new one that's not exactly top of the line. It's attended by a handful of kids he doesn't know, an elderly class turtle with a half-cocked theory on just about everything, and a teacher who probably shouldn't be allowed anywhere near kids, unquote. Oh, Jesus. It's set to debut sometime later this year, and already has a 2-season order. So yeah, Stewie. Interesting. Star Wars Detours, the Seth Green comedy cartoon about Star Wars, which was unceremoniously canceled when Disney bought Lucasfilm, will now see the light of day. It's going to be airing, certain episodes will be aired at the new Lucas Museum in Los Angeles, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Arts, which is expected to open later this year, where Seth Green said at a panel at Comic-Con, quote, we made a show with George, an animated series. He wanted to make Simpsons in the Star Wars universe. It's called Detours, and there's going to be a curation of episodes from that show on display for the public in the theater, unquote. So the show was officially announced in 2012, but it never, ever saw the light of day other than a trailer. But they had finished about 40 episodes, and then Disney bought Lucasfilm and froze the show. Didn't fit with the narrative they were pushing. We learned at Comic-Con that Simon Pegg is joining the cast of the Rings of Power as the voice of the Balrog. Yes, Sauron will fight the Balrog in Season 3 of Rings of Power. That show is going down crazy pathways. But let's talk about everything at Comic-Con, everything else announced at Comic-Con that wasn't at the Marvel Hall H panel. We got a new trailer for Lanterns, which I'm stoked for that show, extremely. And we got our first look at Sinestro in the DCU, and he's already in prison. We do know that Laura Linney will be playing a Guardian, so they're going deep on lore on that. So that's good to see. Let me see. Blade Runner 2099 showed off its trailer, the new show that's going to be on Prime Video, a continuation of the Blade Runner universe. We got some news about Avatar: Aang, The Last Airbender, the new animated movie on Paramount, a continuation of the cartoon. We learned more about Seven Havens, its new spin-off show, and that's going to premiere later this year, as well as a trailer. Let me see. We learned more about Marvel's Wolverine, and that Wolverine will be added to Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Let me see. What else? Oh, there was a Spaceballs panel, and we got word of the Spaceballs cinematic universe with movies planned for like 50 years in Spaceballs. Sadly, there was no trailer. I don't understand why they didn't have a trailer. They've been that movie is ready to go, I thought. Yogurt will be CGI, I guess, and they're going to pay tribute to John Candy, which I'm glad to see. Walking Dead stuff, I don't care that much. Brad Bird showed off his new movie, Ray Gun. I think that's coming to Netflix later this year. Oh, Johnny Depp was out as his character Ebenezer Scrooge from his upcoming adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and he was interacting with fans on the street. That was nice to see. New stuff on X-Men 97. Marvel Comics is making Eddie Brock Venom again. We are getting a new Batman game to launch with Caped Crusader Season 2, but it's for Amazon Prime only, which I don't fully understand that. Indiana Jones is coming back to comics. That's nice to see. The Eisner Awards and Absolute Batman won an Eisner Award, which is a statement I did not ever think I would say. But yes. Oh, and Rick Moranis was at the Spaceballs panel. Let's see. The Paramount Warner Brothers merger is now on hold until at least next June. So Paramount has agreed to postpone their merger until the antitrust trial ends, which is not until next year. So the deal won't close until at least June of 2027. They've refrained from closing it as the antitrust lawsuit plays out in court, which features at least 12 states suing to block it. That's via Variety. We'll see, though, how this progresses and if this ultimately stops the merger. Paramount said, quote, "Today's agreement is a significant win because the result is exactly what we have sought from the outset, a direct path to a trial based on the evidence. This is the fastest and clearest way to prove that this transaction is good for competition, good for consumers, and good for creators, a conclusion dozens of competition authorities around the world have already reached. Plaintiffs' market definitions bear no relationship to the realities of today's marketplace and cannot withstand scrutiny. We look forward to proving our case at trial," unquote. Which, I don't know about that. What's funny is Ari Emanuel has come out in favor of the deal. He owns one of the largest representative firms in Hollywood. He's an agent, or was an agent. His company owns the WWE and UFC. Oh, guess who just signed a massive deal with Paramount? Oh yeah, the UFC. So, you got stakes in the game there, bud. But on the flip side of that, a lot of his actors that his company represents have come out against the deal. Now, I don't know if he represents any of these three, but Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong, and Alan Cumming have all come out penning a letter against it in the UK, asking the UK authorities to not approve it. So we'll see what happens They said, quote, "We have watched with growing alarm what consolidation does to the breadth and depth of the work we produce. Independent film acquisitions at the leading independent film festival Sundance fell by half between 2019 and 2025. Award-winning documentaries, films that won Oscars and topped festival juries, have struggled to find commercial distribution because they touch subjects the remaining handful of buyers found inconvenient. Every merger of this kind narrows the funnel through which stories can reach audiences. That is precisely what makes the Paramount WBD merger so dangerous. Cultural heritage we must protect. Paramount proposes to swallow Warner Brothers Discovery in one of the largest leverage buyouts ever attempted, landing the combined company with an estimated $84 billion in debt. To service it, executives have promised investors around $6 billion in synergies. In plain English, that means redundancies, canceled productions, fewer films commissioned, and fewer risks taken. We've seen this before. When Discovery merged with Warner Media in 2022, it shelved finished films and cut thousands of jobs. When Skydance merged with Paramount last year, it laid off about 2,000 people. Now the same executives are making the same promise, and UK crews, producers, talent, and audiences will pay when the bill comes due." Unquote. It goes on, but I've been against this merger from the start for a multitude of reasons. While I was pro the Netflix deal, I wasn't exactly pro the merger in general. Hollywood mergers are worse than some others. Hollywood has been taken over by the suits. There's a lovely opinion piece in the Hollywood Reporter right now that's titled, quote, "Bring back the Hollywood assholes," unquote. And it's true. You know, the suits and the quarter zips from Wall Street don't know how to run a Hollywood studio. They only care about the numbers, not what the people want to see. Let's see and hope if this delay puts a damper on the merger in general. I don't know. George R. R. Martin has announced he's working on new Dunk and Egg books. Hey, George, you got other books to finish, bud. Yeah, sure, more Dunk and Egg is cool, but how about you put a pin in it and finish The Wind's a Winner? How about that? We also learned at Comic-Con this weekend that a script for a sequel to the Dungeons and Dragons movie has been written, but it might not ever come out. And this could also be blamed on the merger, or also the fact that the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which was very good, didn't make enough money. Jonathan Goldstein, who is the co-director, said, quote, "We actually wrote a sequel to Dungeons and Dragons. We were hired to write it. I don't know that it will see the light of day for a number of financial reasons. They're expensive movies to make, but it'd be great fun to do it. We love that cast, and we think we wrote something that fans would like," unquote. Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of money, but because of how much it cost to make and market and things like that. But I hope they make it. It's got a rotten score in the 90s, which is insane. So, but what about Jarnathan? Will we ever learn about what happened to Jarnathan? Huh? We need to know. Now let's talk about the biggest panel at Comic-Con, Marvel's Hall H. And it started off with a bang because Ryan Gosling was announced as Deadpool. Ryan Gosling was announced as Ghost Rider, and he's getting his own film in 2028. Yes, you heard that right. 2028, we're getting a Ghost Rider film starring Ryan Gosling. His pitch went far enough. Kevin Feige liked it. We don't know which version of Ghost Rider he'll be playing, but the movie will be directed by Sean Levy. Those three are just firing on all cylinders. I mean, they have Star Wars Starfighter coming out next year. Sean Levy just made Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. So he's sticking with it. The big budget guys. Nice. Ryan Reynolds was at Comic-Con, walked around in a Deadpool outfit that was light gray denim, called himself Gene Pool, called out the cast of Doomsday who were there, and was not approached by any fans because they just thought they were taking a picture with a cool Deadpool. But is he going to be in Doomsday or not? We don't know. But Peggy Carter was confirmed to be joining the cast. Haley Atwell was brought out on stage with the rest of the cast. Will Deadpool be there is another question. We also learned that Black Panther 3 has an official release date, December 15th, 2028. So that's 2 Marvel movies for 28. Ghost Rider and Black Panther 3. And we learned that the only Marvel movie in 2027 will be Avengers Secret Wars. So almost a full year between Marvel movies after Doomsday drops later this year. We also learned details of Ryan Coogler's third foray into Wakanda, that David Johnson has been cast as the son of T'Challa, Toussaint, the next Black Panther. He famously appeared recently in Alien Romulus and The Long Walk. He's a great actor, and who cares if he's a British man playing a made-up superhero from Africa? Because apparently some creators online have a problem with a British black man playing the character and not an American. What is going on the internet anymore? This is what I'm talking about. Going back to my earlier conversation. People, grow the fuck up, dude. Complain about real things, not stupid shit. Like, Wakanda's not even a real fucking place. Who cares who plays him realistically? I don't get it. They did show off new footage from Doomsday, but it was not released to the public. Obviously, we got the trailer last week. And they showed off several characters' costumes at their Marvel booth, which featured Doom and Latverian witches, all wearing different colors. Theories are running wild on who those characters are. And then also, we got to see some of the outfits for some of the characters at the Hot Toys and Sideshow booth. They are cooking with Magneto's outfit and with Scott Summers' outfit. I will say that. You can check those out online. Magneto looks amazing, if that's the costume they used in the movie. Anyway, moving on. Let's wrap up. We're getting long in the tooth here. So, YouTube Premium is getting a new benefit. Peacock is being added to YouTube Premium subscribers at no extra cost in the United States. That will begin early next year. And it will be Peacock's ad-supported premium tier, which I'm kind of surprised by. And it's all through YouTube. Why isn't that just part of YouTube TV is my fucking question. How about that? Yeah. Speaking of Peacock, you can get you can watch Super Mario Galaxy now, which I'm gonna do this weekend. I'll finally watch it. President Curtis is the new show spinoff from Rick and Morty, and I loved it. Keith David returns as President Curtis, the character featured in Rick and Morty, and they only have a small appearance by Rick and Morty in the show, which is perfect. The show needs to be separate from them. I'm seeing reviews calling it out for not being like Rick and Morty. I'm like, it's not supposed to be like Rick and Morty. Separate it from that. Yes, it's the same universe, but it's occupying a different space. Okay? All right? Cool. Great show. Check it out. It's actually debuted with like 100% on Rotten, and there's some people saying, it's not Rick and Morty. Shut up. It's not supposed to be. Anyway. And just to round things out today, more streaming service news. Crunchyroll has announced a new streaming bundle in the United States. It's a new bundle with Stars Media for $17 a month, $16.99 a month. you can get a bundle of Crunchyroll and Stars, but only available through Amazon Prime Video. Why don't they just bundle it with Prime Video? How about that? Well, technically it is. So there are different plans on Crunchyroll's website and things like that, but this will be a 23% savings, even though it includes Stars. But I don't know. I don't have Crunchyroll or Stars. But there you go for anime fans. That's it though for Nixer News today. Thank you guys for listening week in, week out. I'm very excited for this Blade Runner. It's not Blade Runner. The Ghost Rider news. I think, look, I don't like the movie Drive, but if they have a tone like that, and speaking of Drive, Kavinsky passed away today, the man who made one of the best songs from that movie. If they have a tone similar to Drive, but do it in the MCU with Ryan Gosling as some version of Ghost Rider, that movie could be great. And I think Sean Levy knows how to make great movies that everyone will enjoy. So it remains to be seen how that all turns out. Obviously, we're still 2 years away before that movie comes out. And we don't even know anything other than it being Ghost Rider. But I am still very excited. I know I didn't really touch on it. Black Panther 3 getting news and David Johnson playing T'Challa. I'm for. I support that as well. I think that's a good choice. People wanted Damson Idris, but he just had a trailer come out for another fantastical movie set within Africa, which explains why he won't be in Black Panther 3. So that is it, though. Like I said, for Nixner News, I don't like to get crazy like I did today. I'm tired of seeing stupid shit on the internet, and it really makes me want to quit social media. And I can't sometimes because of this, right? So I limit myself now. But unfortunately, the way the algorithms work, you look at one and you like some positive comments, and then it feeds you all the rest of the bullshit. So, gonna have to purge the algorithm. Purge the algorithm for sure. Otherwise, thank you guys for listening week in, week out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Do all the fun stuff that you do with platforms. And I will catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening to Nixner News. I'll catch you guys